A disabled person in the Kaaba moved every eye to tears with his devotion and effort towards the Kaaba. Among the millions of Muslims who had come from around the world to see the house of Allah for Umrah, there was one person whose sight filled people's eyes with tears. Before we share this faith-inspiring story with you, if you are new to our channel, please subscribe and click the bell icon to stay updated with all our new videos. This person was a small, disabled individual, barely 2 feet tall and slightly hunched, making it difficult for him to sit and stand. He was an elderly man with a salt and pepper beard, suggesting he might be poor or from the working class. People saw him praying in front of the Kaaba with great humility and concentration. His face kept turning towards the Kaaba repeatedly, as if he was not only praying, but also wanting to look at Allah again and again. Gradually, people started noticing him. His bowing and rising from prostration was so difficult that people began to cry at his dedication and passion. His face clearly showed a deep longing for Allah. The crowd around him began to grow as people hurriedly gathered to see this devout man of Allah. He seemed unaware of those around him, indifferent to who was coming or why they were gathering. His entire focus and interest were solely on the Kaaba and Allah. People began to admire him. He continued to prostrate over and over. His prayer was filled with such love and attention that it seemed it would never end. His eyes were closed and his lips were reciting the words of Allah. People waited for his prayer to end so they could speak to him. Suddenly he finished his prayer, greeted with salam, and still with his eyes closed began speaking aloud, but his speech was stuttered. He was asking his generous Lord for something in a stammering voice, and soon began sobbing with hiccups during his supplication. People tried to understand his words and realized that he was pleading, "O my beloved Lord, grant me the chance to see the inside of your house." Saying this, he was crying uncontrollably. The eyes of the people and local pilgrims watching him were also filled with tears. He wished to enter the Kaaba. He wanted it to be open so he could pray inside. He repeatedly pleaded with his head raised, insisting on only one request, that he be allowed to enter the Kaaba and prostrate inside. Some elderly individuals tried to explain to him that entering or not entering the Kaaba was the same. The entire area is the house of Allah, and prostrating anywhere here is unique. Then someone asked him why he had this longing to see the inside of the Kaaba. The response he gave stunned everyone. People looked at him in surprise after hearing his reply. The man said he was blind and could not see. For him, the interior or exterior beauty of the Kaaba held no meaning. He only wished to find peace inside. He believed he would surely find more peace if he entered. He wanted to touch the inner walls of the Kaaba. People were left speechless by his state. This blind man, who could not see, had reached the Kaaba with a longing to witness the house of Allah. He said he was a very poor man who had saved every penny his whole life, even without the blessing of sight, out of love for Allah, and had finally made it here. He had never seen the Kaaba, had never seen any place here, not even in pictures or on TV, as he was blind. He would only imagine the house of Allah with his mind's eye. He was desperate to enter the Kaaba. His yearning knew no bounds. He kept prostrating again and again, and would then stand up asking to enter the Kaaba. His lips expressed a desire for Allah's pleasure, and he was burning with a longing to gain closeness to Allah. The pure love and desire of this small disabled person moved everyone to tears. He was crying but could not speak, and people around him were admiring his fate. He was born blind, and it is known that those who are born blind or mentally disabled already have a promise of paradise. They are forgiven, as they do not see the world, do not understand the world, and are not burdened by worldly desires. Such people do not commit sins anyway, yet he was still standing there with such intense yearning. He still desired closeness to Allah. The people gathered there collectively petitioned the guards standing at various points in the Kaaba to open it for this disabled man. His plea was conveyed to the King of Saudi Arabia, to the Imam of the Kaaba, and to every authority who could open the Kaaba and let him inside. People supported him and requested on his behalf. Finally, the man's desire and longing moved everyone to the point that the Kaaba was opened for him. He rushed inside, prostrated, and began praying. His passion and devotion were such that it felt like this was his final moment, and there would be no need for prostration after this. He was crying out of joy inside the Kaaba, saying, "O Allah, you have granted me all the happiness in the world. My Allah, you are merciful. You respond to the love of your servants with love. You have honored my sightless eyes. You have given value to my worthless existence. You have accepted me. If only my life could be sacrificed for my beloved Lord." He was saying this while crying in gratitude. This disabled man was a living example for able-bodied people. Despite being harmless, disabled, small in stature, and without the blessing of sight, he was still yearning and crying out of love for Allah. His prostrations were filled with love. People seemed to learn from him how to worship and love Allah. Those who were physically complete and flawless never prostrated with such intensity, never thanked Allah in such a manner, nor had such a desire. They were learning from him, while the disabled man remained engrossed in his prayer, indifferent to the world and the people around him. There were elderly people present who, due to joint pain, performed their prayers sitting on chairs and completed their umrah on wheelchairs. But upon seeing the love of this 2-foot hunchbacked man, they felt ashamed. Despite his disability and inability to see properly, he had walked all the way to perform umrah and was praying standing up. Allah rewarded his true love with such a great honor that he allowed him to enter the Kaaba. Anas bin Malik and Abu Huraira, may Allah be pleased with them, narrate that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, "Allah the Almighty says, when a servant comes closer to me by a span, I draw closer to him by a cubit. When he comes closer by a cubit, I draw closer by 2. When he walks towards me, I rush towards him." Whoever seeks closeness to Allah through good deeds, even if they are few, Allah rewards them many times over and showers His mercy and grace upon them immediately. A hadith states, "Allah does not look at your bodies or your appearances, but rather looks at your hearts and deeds. May Allah accept even our small acts of worship and elevate them to the level of acceptance, and grant every Muslim the chance to see His house. Ameen, O Lord of the worlds. O Allah, the most merciful, the most generous, the bestower of wealth and sustenance. I seek refuge in you from poverty and hardship, and I ask you for wealth, prosperity, and success in this world and the hereafter. O Allah, grant me your bountiful provisions and lawful sustenance that will enrich my life without causing me to turn away from you. Make me content and grateful for all that you bless me with, and protect me from the trials of wealth and the evils of greed. O Allah, bless me with abundance in my earnings, and grant me the strength to use my wealth wisely, to support my family, and to give in charity. Enrich me with your infinite bounty, so that I can fulfill my obligations and help others in need. O Allah, open for me the doors of opportunity, success, and halal income. Place barakah, blessings, in my business, my job, and all my endeavors. Make me a source of goodness for my community and the entire ummah. O Allah, make my heart content with what you have decreed for me. Guide me, forgive me, and have mercy upon me. Grant me success, protect me from harm, and shower me with your limitless blessings.